This week in indie horror, we've got evil dolls, urban legends, time loops, and backwoods witchcraft. Let's start binging. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. Low Budget Binge is where we venture down the path less traveled and look at low budget, no budget, and sometimes international films that never get that top billing you see with the usual Hollywood fare. I'll indicate in the review down below where you can find these films along with their trailers. Here we go. Baby Oopsie Part 1 is streaming new on Full Moon Features website. It's directed and written by William Butler and produced by Charles Band. I've only been able to find behind-the-scenes photos of Baby Oopsie. The little runt seems to be a part of Full Moon's Demonic Toys universe, but sadly I haven't seen much of that series. Maybe I'll rectify that sometime soon. One of Charles Band's earliest successes was his production of Stuart Gordon's Dolls, an effective little horror movie about evil toys and turning people into formerly living dolls. 35 years later, Band and his Full Moon Pictures is revisiting similar themes in Baby Oopsie, a deranged story of a lonely host of a doll video blog named Sybil, played by Libby Higgins, and her obsession with dolls. Sybil is lonely and put upon by her mother, who she still lives with, but her life is fulfilled by her love of her dolls. When the head of a highly damaged doll arrives in the mail, Sybil restores it and places it onto a new, deadly doll body with tender, loving care. As a reward, the doll baby, dubbed Baby Oopsie, enacts gory revenge on those who make Sybil's life difficult. Baby Oopsie Part 1 is the first chapter of a multi-part streaming series from Full Moon Pictures, not unlike Ravenwolf Towers, which I covered a few years back. It seems Band is responding to the Chucky series, which will be released by Sci-Fi this fall, giving us monthly installments of demonic doll horror. While Full Moon Pictures has stumbled of late to deliver the quality of horror that they used to be known for back when Empire morphed into Full Moon in the 80s, I'm always curious to see if Band can move past his stoner horror phase with films like Ginger Dead Man and The Evil Bong and return to his more serious horror roots. Baby Oopsie is a step in the right direction, as was Ravenwolf Towers before it. There does seem to be some solid production in this first installment. There's a musical score that is pretty strong and interesting cinematography, something missed from Full Moon's output in recent years. There's also some okay amateur acting. While I doubt Mr. Oscar is going to be calling the Baby Oopsie set, these actors seem to be giving it their all, and it makes the terror feel more palpable because of it. Dolls are creepy looking, and director-writer William Butler takes advantage of that by zooming in close to these warped, damaged, and doll-eyed miniature terrors. It's the same kind of horror touched upon in films like Tourist Trap and the aforementioned Dolls that is harnessed in Baby Oopsie. In the end, Oopsie is sort of just a Chucky clone, but one done with low budget and practical effects, so there's a down and dirty charm to the little shit. The film doesn't hold back on the red stuff either. It's already slaughtering people in the first act. While this is just the first installment, it shows that Baby Oopsie has some potential in delivering the goods when it comes to dolly horror. Yes, this feels like a DIY production, but still it's good to see Band and company taking horror seriously again. We don't know much about Baby Oopsie yet, but this is still early in the story. I'm looking forward to the next installment to find out more. 6:45 is new in select Regal theaters from Fathom Events and will soon be available on demand and digital download. It's directed by Craig Singer and written by Robert Dean Klein. A young couple, Jules, played by Augie Duke, and Bobby, played by Michael Reed, take a trip to a small island town for a weekend vacation, but find themselves caught in a time loop where they are murdered by a hooded killer over and over again. Bobby seems to be the only one conscious of this loop and must find out why they're caught on the island and what he needs to do in order to escape the loop. First off, 6:45 is a really solid production. It looks extremely good, with Craig Singer's cameras capturing the beauty and mystery of this banal island town. There are gorgeous scenes of Jules and Bobby simply walking through the town that highlight the director's skill in capturing beautiful imagery, which really communicates the dreamlike power of the relationship between these troubled lovers. These idyllic shots really allow you to believe in these two characters and want them to find some way to survive. The acting is top-notch as well in 645. Both Augie Duke and Michael Reed deliver strong performances that make the sappy lovey-dovey talk feel real and three-dimensional. While they are having a great weekend, they also bob and weave with the troubles the two of them have faced in the past. Duke is uncontrollably likable as Jules. She's strong and unafraid to speak her mind, yet still loves Bobby despite his problems. Reed delivers a tragic performance as Bobby, who wants to change his ways so much, but only because he has made mistakes and knows how close he is to losing Jules. This is not a pretty love story, but it is a very realistic relationship these two actors bring to life. Without sounding ironic or punny, the big issue with 645 is that it is very repetitious. I feel the film would have made a better short film, as much of the first hour simply has Jules and Bobby making their way through the day, attempting to do different things, but coming to the same end at the hands of the hooded killer. This works the first couple of times, but it's hard to roll with this for a solid hour before the film begins delivering clues as to why the couple is caught in this predicament. There is a twist. I think it's pretty obvious by the hour mark what it is, but it does deliver a powerful ending that doesn't shy away from violence, gore, and gut-punching emotional impact. I just felt the road there could have moved along a bit more breezily. Just like you, I'm kind of sick of Groundhog's Day kind of films, a result of the current world crisis where every day feels exactly like the day before it. But I like 645 quite a bit. It's kind of an anti-romance film, presenting the deal and best day this couple has ever experienced, where everyone does everything perfectly, and then taking its time to dissolve that happiness to its core by the time the film reaches to its conclusion. It's a brutally honest and powerful story brought to life with shocking moments, wonderful atmosphere, and two actors who deliver the goods, be they good or bad. DACHRA is new in select theaters and on demand from DACHRA. It's directed and written by Abdelhamid Bouchnak. Three student filmmakers, Yasmin, played by Yasmin Dumasi, Walid, played by Aziz Jabali, and Bilal, played by Bilal Slatnia, take an assignment to investigate a cold case about a mutilated woman and its ties to witchcraft in a small village called DACHRA in Tunisia. They're met with smiles in the village, but soon the three students find themselves trapped in the town with all kinds of strange and diabolical things occurring in the periphery and inching closer. DACHRA is a solid paranormal investigation style story. It isn't found footage, but it has all of the setup to be one, as the students are always filming the local customs and atmosphere of the small town. Filmmaker Abdelhamid Bouchnak does a great job of creating a dank, destitute, and otherworldly atmosphere for these city students to feel completely out of place in. The forests are clouded with thick fog, and the buildings are run down and rotted. Bouchnak does a good job of zooming in close to show the wrinkles on the faces of the weary people of DACHRA, as well as the urban decay that has occurred in the impoverished place. Plain and simple, it makes for a great setting for a horror movie. And there is a solid story being told, filled with morbid details and twisted surprises. I liked a lot of the broad strokes of DACHRA, its unexpected twists and dark secrets mapping out a truly depraved and haunting story. It is a bit familiar with many other folk horror stories that we've seen in recent years, but the Tunisian landscape makes it feel more fresh and new. But looking closer, there are a few problems I encountered with DACHRA that I could not ignore. The acting works in DACHRA, for the most part. All of the actors do their thing decently, though the male students act particularly buffoonish, almost to a comedic level. My main issue was with the lead, Yasmin Dumasi, who plays Yasmin. Not only is her voice extremely shrill, but she's also constantly annoyed, angry, pissed, offended, or all four at the other two guys, constantly yelling and berating them. Yes, they are kind of moronic, but relatively good-natured. Yasmin doesn't seem to want to be on this trip at all, and is not afraid to complain about everything. This makes her extremely hard to like, and with Yasmin's fate so closely tied to the story, it made it hard for me to have investment in her plight. When the lead character is unlikable, it ultimately hurts your story. While it may be a horror trope, there are way too many instances when something creepy or weird happens and none of the three leads communicate it to one another. One of the students finds a video from the night before of someone filming the three of them while sleeping, and instead of freaking out, he doesn't tell anyone and seems to forget about it later. Another notices hooded people lurking outside of their window, and when they disappear, she says nothing to the group. It's basically done to keep the plot from moving forward so that more creepy things can compound, but it isn't really how people would act in this situation. Another thing is that there is a major revelation in the story that occurs when Yasmin reads a journal she has been in possession of the whole time, and finally gets to a specific passage at the exact right time to provide crucial information about the situation these three students are in. This feels way too convenient in what I consider to be lazy writing, that this info is revealed in such a way coincidentally at the exact moment they need it. There are some seriously creepy Don't Look Now vibes from the latter portions of DACHRA, as Yasmin follows a red-coated child deep into the ruins of this forgotten city. Once some of the mystery is taken away, things do get very unusual, and the film ends on a downright vague note where you are only given a glimpse of the fate of our intrepid reporters. Still, DACHRA achieves some level of terror and level of high tension from beginning to end. The end leaves things sort of up to interpretation, so some will feel the lead-up doesn't match the revelation in the final moments. All in all, this is a mixed bag style of film. The quality of filmmaking is undeniably good, and the mystique is definitely potent and thick. But there are dangling plot threads all over the place by the time the credits roll, and paired with a protagonist who spends 90% of the movie with an annoyed look on her face, it makes the whole thing rough to fully recommend. Finally, we have KANDISHA. It's new, streaming on Shudder. It's directed and written by Alexandre Bustillo and Julien Maury. After her ex-boyfriend attacks her, Emily, played by Mathilde Lamuse, calls forth a local legend and demon named KANDISHA, which wreaks havoc on all males, including the ones Amelie loves the most. Now, Amelie and her two friends, Bintu, played by Suzy Bemba, and Morjana, played by Samarshande Saadi, must find some way to vanquish the demon before all of the men in their life are destroyed by this vengeful, shape-shifting demon. Sort of played out like a French version of Candyman or the Bloody Mary urban legend, KANDISHA is an effective little supernatural slasher film that also walks the same path as most of A Nightmare on Elm Street films. The character of KANDISHA certainly is an interesting looking one. It shifts from wearing a sari to a belly dancer outfit to a full-on 8-foot demon with goat feet from one scene to the next, all the while exuding an alluring yet horrific visage. While it's kind of funny that an ancient demon would have big fake boobs, this one does and sort of pulls it off during an especially gory steam room kill. Still, the practical effects of the goat legs as well as the full-on monstrous final demon stage are well accomplished and all practical. Unfortunately, despite the uniqueness of the demon, I can't help but feel that directors Alexandre Bustillo and Julien Maury are kind of phoning it in at this point. They burst it out of the gates with the ultra-gory and horrifying Inside. They kind of petered out the still unreleased in the US film Le Vide, and fell flat on their face with Leatherface. I'd say KANDISHA is right around the same type of quality as Le Vide, if you happen to have caught that film in some shape or form. There are strong ideas, but these ideas are very much like the aforementioned Candyman Bloody Mary, as the demon is summoned by saying its name 5 times in the mirror. Sure, this might be a reflection of the actual legend of the area, but since the premise has been done before in other highly popular films, one might think of finding a new means of summoning. The addition of tracing a pentagram in blood is a nice touch, but the pentagram is an overused image as well, so it doesn't add to the story creatively. Even with the highly familiar way KANDISHA is summoned, this doesn't excuse the very A Nightmare on Elm Street style of kills that occur every time one of the guys in the film stubbornly goes off on their own. Instead of falling asleep like all the kills in A Nightmare on Elm Street, the guys simply think they're too tough to be afraid of a female demon and go on about their business until they are eventually stomped to death or torn apart by KANDISHA. This is not only repetitious, but it's also the template of most slasher films, which doesn't lend any cred to the film creatively either. One interesting aspect of KANDISHA is while it does serve as a story about female empowerment, about women fighting back against men who attack them, it also seems to play out as a moral tale, as this broad method of fighting back against the patriarchy also hurts the men these three girls love and care for. It's an interesting yet conflicting message that I don't think would be in a mainstream American horror film, which tends to be much more cut and dry or basic about their feminist messages. Yes, this could be called a feminist movie, but at the same time, it shows that when one fights back violently or with malice against a vast type of person, that vengeance is going to affect someone you know eventually, and you might regret the actions you take without thinking them through. Sure, the world is more complex than women equals good and men equals bad in the world of these three girls, but through the eyes of this simplistic demon, that's precisely the way KANDISHA sees it. So when fathers, little brothers, boyfriends, and childhood buddies are torn asunder by KANDISHA, this tear down the patriarchy message begins to show its cracks. If anything, KANDISHA shows how any message, no matter what the original intent, can be perverted and destructive if looked at too simplistically. In the end, KANDISHA is a perfectly fine supernatural slasher. The effects are strong, the story is not so fresh, like eating at the same restaurant 2 days in a row, and the only change to your meal is a different drink. I enjoyed watching this one and look forward to every Bustillo and Maury flick, but I fear nothing they will make will ever come close to the intense peak they reached with Inside. I hope they prove me wrong someday, but KANDISHA isn't it. That'll be it for today. Please chime in down below in the comments and let me know how on the nose or mind-numbingly wrong I am, or you can counter with your own review. So guys, you know how YouTube works. I'd love to be able to dedicate more time to this channel. I'm not monetized yet, so if you want to help me out, remember to hit all the pertinent bells and whistles down below. Want some spooky comics to read? I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks you should look out for. Both GRAVETRANCERS and Pirouette, collecting never-before-published issues, can be found in only the finest of comic book shops. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on my website, mlmillerwrites.com. If you really want to show your support, I also have a Patreon page at mlmiller. Look for the link to my Patreon page down below. Thank you so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're